Now coming to industrial robots in particular, so robotics, obviously just to give you an image, view of this, the same thing that I have just talked about. So this is painting, a robot performing painting, a robot performing milling, a robot performing welding. So this is painting, this is milling. All right, now this is 3D printing. This is a robot trying to print a structure, what we call as additive manufacturing. There's a filament that is attached to the end of the robot that is fed from some other place. So a robot is programmed to move in this way, the way this shape is actually developed out of the layers. So the robot puts up the material as per the layer and then gets this thing developed. So this is, you can see, additive manufacturing robotics is again useful. Automotive sector, one of the most popular sectors. This is how robots are lined up in a typical, you can see, automated factory setup where robots are in operation. So robots are trying to do various tasks in this line, where it may be some putting up some components, maybe welding of some components in the next step. It may be some, again, drilling of some component in the third step, and so on. Something in aerospace, robots are again used. Electronic industry that I've just talked about, kind of smaller robots, bigger robots as per the payload that is to be, that the robot is supposed to take up. Food industry, again popularly used. Different robots are used in food industry for sorting, for inspection, for pick and place, and other things. Robotics in medicine, you can see robotic surgery, where a doctor is sitting at a, there is something called as a slave and master. So suppose this is slave and the place here is master. So there are two robots, one is at the master level, another is the slave level. So a patient is supposed to be here and the robot is supposed to operate actually, but the robot is controlled by a doctor or a surgeon, expert surgeon. There's a vision, there's a camera from which he can see, and there are some tools which he uses to control this robot precisely. So the robot can actually help in operating these patients. One of the most important things about robotics is actually being precise. Actually, there are some surgeries like neurosurgery and other surgeries where you need to be very, very precise. Humans are sometimes, when humans perform such things monotonously, or humans perform such things, may have problems in actually controlling a fine movement. So when it's required, actually, in mostly neurosurgeries and other things, so robots actually can be handy there, where robots can actually control such smaller, or you can say finer movements very precisely. So that's why it has an increasing demand these days. Now again, this was related to teleoperation, where the robot is expected to be operating with maybe a technical operator, and the doctor is supposed to be here. So now teleoperation is actually referred to this distance. So this distance would mean, this is actually again something which is very contemporary, or you can say future of robotic surgery, where this doctor or an expert doctor is not really available at distant places. So let's say this distance is sometimes in kilometers, or maybe this is a countrywide distance. A person sitting in one country, another patient sitting in another country. This is future which is envisaged. So an expert can actually operate this patient from here by controlled movement of the master, and obviously the controlled movement from the slave. So this is something that is a very hot topic in robotic surgery. And then you can see here a person is operating another small robot, which is again a master, and then there is a slave robot which is trying to lift up some objects, or maybe he's trying to manipulate this with this. This again concept towards robotic surgery. Haptics is one of the another applications, which is the sensing and manipulation through the sense of touch. So this is a virtual environment, and then there is a small robot, you can see, which is a haptic device. This robot is having a direct interaction or a interface with the human, which we call them as human machine interface. This is unlike to the industrial robots, which are kept away from the in human beings. So robots generally would operate being away from the human beings, but in this case robot is in contact with the human being, and there is a manipulation of the a cursor here which interacts with any object there, and then there's a force that is felt, and then that force is reflected back to the operator. So this is very useful in teaching the medical procedures. This is very useful in the gaming industry. This is very useful in the physical rehabilitation industry. This has again so many contemporary applications in robotic surgery with something called as robotic surgery with haptics feedback. This is one of the most contemporary areas, because in the robotic surgery that we've seen, this person may be able to operate this patient, but in the current systems that we have available, the robot is able to move very precisely, but the doctor may not be able to feel the forces that are encountered by the the surgical robot on this patient, which is actually very necessary when you are trying to detect something very unknown or unusual in the patient. So those feelings are very important that a doctor generally feels with his own tools. Because he's at a distance place, he doesn't actually understand, or he doesn't actually feel those things. But haptics can enable those things, because haptics enables force feedback. Force feedback. So incorporating haptics into the robotic surgery is something which is very contemporary. Obviously, robots, you can say, where humans and robots work together. This is known as cobots, or you can say collaborative robotics. All right, let's see some videos. These are robots at some industrial shows. These you can say programs that are conducted by industries to showcase their robots. So this is a Delta robot. We'll see those classification of robots. So robots can lift very heavy objects, also manipulate them and lift them very precisely. So let me seek through these videos, just try to see some of the key things that we actually need to see rather than seeing the whole one. You can watch these things on YouTube if you're really interested in looking at the capabilities of robots. See the capabilities. This is a typical example of a mobile robot. So this is a mobile robot which is able to move, but then there is a fixed robot on this. So you can have hybrid robots where both mobile and fixed are there, and then we take the advantages of the both. So this is one of the entertainment. It's like a kind of a amusement ride with robots. This is more about cobots, where humans also interact with robots. Simply move the head to the position required, and with a click of button, a position is taught. So this is something very contemporary actually in robotics. So now I think this is enough for you to get a feel of what robots capabilities are.